What's going on, guys? My name's Theoatrix, and today I'm covering the 40 best external RuneLite plugins. In RuneLite, if you go to the spanner icon, then at the bottom click Plugin Hub, you gain access to community-made plugins with a far broader range of capabilities compared to the pre-installed plugins. Let's get into it. The first plugin I'm showing is called One Click Summer Garden, and this is powerful for the Sorceress's Garden. Once all of the elementals have a green tile marker under them, it means you can safely do the one-click method. You start next to the flower here, and as soon as the countdown reaches 0, you click on the tree in the center with Run on. This takes you all the way to the middle and can net you over 140k thieving XP per hour at 65. If you don't have your Rogue's outfit yet, the Rogue's Den plugin by Nightfirecat makes the minigame a million times easier, showing you exactly where to click and when to run. Highly recommend. Do you ever wonder how long it's been since one of your friends has been online? Well, using the Last Seen Online plugin, you can hover over their name and see the last time that you saw them online. Now, before I go further, I have a sponsor for today's video, Opera GX. Opera GX is a web browser made for gamers. With GX Control, you can enhance your PC performance by setting limits on CPU and RAM usage. In the GX Control panel, there's also a network limiter, which can greatly help your game performance. In the top left, you can access the GX Corner, which keeps you up to date with upcoming game releases, as well as breaking news and the best gaming deals. The browser is also completely customizable. You can easily switch between light and dark mode, as well as alter the primary and secondary colors of the UI. Opera GX is also now available on mobile, with an inbuilt ad blocker and complete customization. So check out the link in the description to download Opera GX or search for it on the iOS or Google Play Store. Thanks to Opera for sponsoring this video. The next plugin I'm showing is called Shooting Stars, and this plugin saves the location and the time of shooting stars when you look through your telescope in the player-owned house. The cool thing about this plugin is that it uploads it to a server so that it can be shared among the users of the plugin. So with enough people using this plugin, this panel should be full and there'll always be a shooting star to mine. Next, I have 4 plugins that improve the look and feel of your client. 117HD brings high-definition graphics to old school, giving off a 2010 OSRS vibe. The plugin is completely customizable, where you can change shadows, lighting, textures, and brightness. Camera Smoothing is another plugin that I highly recommend, and it smooths your camera rotations to make them less choppy and also smooths your zooming. Interface Styles is a plugin that's already pre-installed on RuneLite. It allows you to change the look of your UI from the default look to a 2005, 2006, and 2010 look. Combined with HD graphics, it almost feels like you're playing in 2010 again. Next is the Full Screen plugin, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the only way to play in proper full screen on old school RuneScape. Quest Helper is a plugin that I spoke about almost 2 years ago, and since then it's grown so much with heaps of quests and diaries now. So for those that don't know, Quest Helper will take you through entire quests telling you where to go and where to click. It's much faster than watching or reading a quest guide. When you're just starting the quest, you can go to the bank and click the quest icon in the top right to see all of the required items for that quest. The helper works for diaries as well, and includes almost every diary and every tier that there is. So if you've been putting off your questing or diaries, this plugin makes it a lot easier. So now I'm going over 6 banking plugins. First is Banked Experience, and this plugin checks the quantities of skilling resources in your bank and shows you how much experience you can get. This plugin is best for Ironman with things like Herblore, but it is also useful on a regular account. Bank XP Value is a similar plugin, but instead of having a side panel, you right-click your bank settings to view your total XP. You can then hover over each skill to see the resources. Wasted Bank Space is a great plugin to clean up your bank. It shows a small yellow warning icon on items that shouldn't be in your bank, and it tells you where you should store it or whether you should drop it. The Inventory Setups plugin is a great way to quickly gear up for different bosses or situations. In the right-hand panel, you press plus to add a new setup, and it grabs your current worn items and inventory. You can then right-click the equipment viewer in the top left to select which setup you want, and then it auto-filters your bank. With the inbuilt bank plugin on RuneLite, I highly recommend turning on Keyboard Bank Pin. It lets you type out your bank pin on your keyboard rather than finding each number on the screen. The last plugin for the banking helpers is called Decimal Prices, and this allows you to use decimals when withdrawing X. So instead of typing 2300K, you can type 2.3M. The Shortest Path plugin is a great one for questing or navigating through tricky areas. All you do is open your map and right-click where you want to go and click Set Target. Now I have two plugins useful for examining other players. If you're ever unsure what items a player is wearing, the Equipment Inspector plugin allows you to see it, even with ornament kits and recolors. The other plugin is called Pet Info, and it allows you to right-click other players' pets and see where they got it. Useful if you're not sure which pet it is. Now I have three plugins that help with phishing training. First is Left Click Dropper, and in the plugin settings, you can input which items you want to have the left click drop option without having to hold down Shift. There's also the Phishing Notifier plugin, which improves the standard RuneLite notification, notifying you as soon as you stop phishing. And lastly, many players choose to raise a kitten while they're fishing, and the Kitten Tracker plugin is very useful for that. It shows when the kitten needs to be fed or given attention, and also when it will grow up. Next, I have a bunch of minigame and activity helpers. When you're doing the underwater agility and thieving activity under Fossil Island, you should install the plugin by R438 to get timers for new chests, direction indicators, as well as highlights for pufferfish. A plugin called Guardian of the Rift Helper gives a range of useful overlays for the minigame, like highlighting the current open altars and portals. The Temporos plugin includes useful timers and overlays for the fishing boss. And the Tithe Farm Improved plugin shows you the progress of plants within the minigame, as well as highlights. The BA minigame plugin is one I've spoken about before, and it includes useful overlays and prompts for each role. Highly recommended if you're going for your torso or the diary task. Lastly, for the minigame and activity helpers is a plugin called Sulicep Run, and it highlights the active tree as well as obstructions in your path that you need to clear. Now I have some useful plugins for PvP. First is Customizable Xp Drops, which has a setting that works out what you'll hit. Usually, you can tell how big a hit is going to be by the size of the XP drop, but this plugin gives you a definite answer. PvP Performance Tracker is a must for LMS and hybrid or tribrid PKers. It keeps track of how many times you and your opponent had the correct protection prayer on, as well as tracks your accuracy and deserved damage. The plugin is a little more complex than that, so if you're a PKer, I highly recommend reading up about it. Another great PvP plugin is Player Outline, which can be used in conjunction with ;render self to give you an edge over your opponent if you get frozen or you freeze them and stand underneath. Last for the PvP plugins is Anti-Drag, which is a pre-installed plugin that every PKer should have on. It stops you from accidentally dragging items instead of wearing them. Next is a group of plugins for bossing. Metronome and Visual Metronome are two plugins that aid with one-tick prayer flicking, with the first being an audio indicator and the second being a visual one. The Dps Calculator plugin is another great one for bossing and also Slayer, and it allows you to choose gear setups and compare them on monsters by right-clicking them. The Damage Counter plugin is another useful one for group bossing to see how much damage you did per kill. A plugin useful for Slayer is one called Lookup, which allows you to right-click and look up the drops of any monster. The Patch Payment plugin lets you check saplings or seeds to see what the payment is for protection. Super useful for if you forget. Now, the last two plugins I'm showing you are for flipping, with one called Flipper and the other Flipping Utilities. Both of these plugins work in a similar fashion, they just have different layouts. You can use these to keep track of your flips, save current margin prices, as well as track your profit. If you're a flipper, either one of these plugins is a must. Anyways guys, that's it for today's video. What's your favorite external RuneLite plugin? Mine is definitely Quest Helper. I've never really been a fan of quests, but with Quest Helper, it's so easy and fast. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you're new around here, subscribe for more old school RuneScape content. Be sure to check out Opera GX, linked down in the description, to get a web browser for gamers. Thanks for watching.